Section 45 of the Book of 1000 Nights and a Night, Volume 7. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Pam Castile. The Book of 1000 Nights and a Night, Volume 7, by Anonymous. Translated by Richard Francis Burton. Section 45. When it was the 769th night, she resumed, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the damsel said to Saif al-Muluk, Then the king of the Jinn, after he had acquainted me with his case, embraced me and kissed me, saying, Abide here and fear nothing. Whereupon he went away from me for an hour, and presently returned with these tables and carpets and furniture. He comes to me every third, and abideth with me 3 days, and on Friday, at the time of mid-afternoon prayer, he departeth and is absent till the following third. When he is here, he eateth and drinketh and kisseth and huggeth me, but doth naught else with me, and I am a pure virgin, even as Allah Almighty created me. My father's name is Taj al-Muluk, and he wotteth not what is come of me, nor hath he hit upon any trace of me. This is my story. Now tell me thy tale. Answered the prince, My story is a long, and I fear lest while I am telling it to thee, the Ifrit come. Quoth she, He went out from me but an hour before thy entering, and will not return till third. So sit thee down, and take thine ease, and hearken thy heart, and tell me what hath betided thee from beginning to end. And quoth he, I hear and I obey. So he fell to telling her all that had befallen him, from commencement to conclusion. But when she heard speak of Badi al-Jamal, her eyes ran over with railing tears, and she cried, O Badi al-Jamal, I had not thought this of thee. Alack for our luck! O Badi al-Jamal, dost thou not remember me, nor say, My sister, Daulat Khatun, whither is she gone? And her weeping redoubled, lamenting for that Badi al-Jamal had forgotten her. Then said Saif al-Muluk, O Daulat Khatun, thou art a mortal, and she is a jinniyah. How then can she be thy sister? Replied the princess, She is my sister by fosterage, and this is how it came about. My mother went out to solace herself in the garden, when labor pangs seized her, and she bare me. Now the mother of Badi al-Jamal chanced to be passing with her guards, when she also was taken with travail pains. So she alighted in a side of the garden, and there brought forth Badi al-Jamal. She dispatched one of her women to seek food and childbirth gear of my mother, who sent her what she sought, and invited her to visit her. So she came to her with Badi al-Jamal, and my mother suckled the child, who with her mother tarried with us in the garden 2 months. And before wending her ways, the mother of Badi al-Jamal gave my mother somewhat, saying, When thou hast need of me, I will come to thee amiddlemost the garden, and departed to her own land. But she and her daughter used to visit us every year, and abide with us a while before returning home. Wherefore, and I were with my mother, O Saif al-Muluk, and if thou wert with me in my own country, and Badi al-Jamal and I were together as of wont, I would devise some device with her, to bring thee to thy desire of her. But I am here, and they know naught of me. For that and they kenned what is become of me, they have power to deliver me from this place. However, the matter is in Allah's hands. Extolled and exalteth be He. And what can I do? Quoth Saif al-Muluk, Rise, and let us flee and go whither the Almighty willeth. But quoth she, We cannot do that, for by Allah, though we fled hence a year's journey, that accursed would overtake us in an hour and slaughter us. Then said the prince, I will hide myself in his way, and when he passeth by, I will smite him with the sword and slay him. Daulat Khatun replied, Thou canst not succeed in slaying him, save thou his soul. Asked he, And where is his soul? And she answered, Many a time have I questioned him thereof, but he would not tell me, till one day I pressed him, and he waxed wroth with me, and said to me, How often wilt thou ask me of my soul? What hast thou to do with my soul? I rejoined, O Hatim, there remaineth none to me but thou, except Allah, and my life dependeth on thy life, and whilst thou livest, all is well for me. So except I care for thy soul, and set it in the apple of this mine eye, how shall I live in thine absence? And I knew where thy soul abideth, I would never cease whilst I live to hold it in mine embrace, and would keep it as my right eye. Whereupon said he to me, What time I was born, the astrologers predicted that I should lose my soul at the hands of the son of a king of mankind. So I took it and set it in the crop of a sparrow, and shut up the bird in a box. The box I set in a casket, and enclosing this in 7 other caskets, and 7 chests, laid the whole in an alabastrine coffer, which I buried within the marge of yon earth-circling sea, for that these parts are far from the world of men, and none of them can win hither. So now see, I have told thee what thou wouldst know, and do thou tell none thereof, for it is a secret between me and thee. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased to say her permitted say. When it was the 770th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Daulat Khatun acquainted Sayf al-Muluk with the whereabouts of the soul of the Jinni who had carried her off, and repeated to him his speech, ending with, And this is a secret between me and thee, I rejoined, quoth she, To whom shall I tell it, seeing that none but thou cometh hither with whom I may talk thereof? Adding, By Allah, thou hast indeed set thy soul in the strongest of strongholds, to which none may gain access. How should a man win to it, unless the impossible be foreordained, and Allah decree like as the astrologers predicted? Thereupon the Jinni, peradventure one may come, having on his finger the seal ring of Solomon son of David, on the twain be peace, and lay his hand with the ring on the face of the water, saying, By the virtue of the names engraven upon this ring, let the soul of such an one come forth. Whereupon the coffer will rise to the surface, and he will break it open, and do the like with the chests and caskets, till he come to the little box, when he will take out the sparrow and strangle it, and I shall die. Then said Sayf al-Muluk, I am the king's son of whom he spake, and this is the ring of Solomon David's son on my finger. So rise, let us go down to the seashore, and see if his words be leal or leasing. Thereupon the two walked down to the seashore, and the princess stood on the beach, whilst the prince waded into the water to his waist, and laying his hand with the ring on the surface of the sea, said, By the virtue of the names and talismans engraven on this ring, and by the might of Suleiman bin Daud, on whom be the peace, let the soul of Hatim the Jinni, son of the Blue King, come forth. Whereat the sea boiled in billows, and the coffer of alabaster rose to the surface. Sayf al-Muluk took it and shattered it against the rock, and broke open the chests and caskets, till he came to the little box, and drew thereout the sparrow. Then the twain returned to the castle, and sat down on the throne. But hardly had they done this, when lo and behold, there arose a dust cloud terrifying, and some huge thing came flying and crying, Spare me, O king's son, and slay me not, but make me thy freedman, and I will bring thee to thy desire. Quoth Daulat Khatun, The Jinni cometh, slay the sparrow, lest this accursed enter the palace, and take it from thee, and slaughter me, and slaughter thee after me. So the prince wrung the sparrow's neck, and it died. Whereupon the Jinni fell down at the palace door, and became a heap of black ashes. Then said Daulat Khatun, We are delivered from the hand of yonder accursed. What shall we do now? And Sayf al-Muluk replied, It behoveth us to ask aid of Allah Almighty, who hath afflicted us. Belike he will direct us and help us to escape from this our strait. So saying, he arose, and pulling up 60 of the doors of the palace, which were of sandalwood and line aloes, with nails of gold and silver, bound them together with ropes of silk and floss silk and fine linen, and wrought of them a raft, which he and the princess aided each other to hale down to the seashore. They launched it upon the water till it floated, and making it fast to the beach, returned to the palace, whence they removed all the chargers of gold and saucers of silver and jewels and precious stones and metals, and what else was light of load and weighty of worth, and freighted the raft therewith. Then they embarked, after fashioning 2 pieces of wood into the likeness of paddles, and casting off the rope moorings, let the raft drift out to sea with them, committing themselves to Allah the Most High, who contenteth those that put their trust in him, and disappointeth not them who rely upon him. They ceased not faring on thus 4 months, until their victual was exhausted, and their sufferings waxed severe, and their souls were straitened. So they prayed Allah to vouchsafe them deliverance from that danger. But all this time, when they lay down to sleep, Sayf al-Muluk set Daulat Khatun behind him, and laid a naked brand at his back, so that when he turned in sleep, the sword was between them. At last it chanced one night, when Sayf al-Muluk was asleep, and Daulat Khatun awake, that behold, the raft drifted landwards, and entered a port wherein were ships. The princess saw the ships, and heard a man, he being the chief and head of the captains, talking with the sailors, whereby she knew that this was the port of some city, and that they were come to an inhabited country. So she joyed with exceeding joy, and waking the prince, said to him, Ask the captain the name of the city and harbour. Thereupon Sayf al-Muluk arose and said to the captain, O my brother, how is this harbour hight, and what be the names of yonder city and its king? Replied the captain, O false face, O frosty beard, and thou knew not the name of this port and city? How camest thou hither? Quoth Sayf al-Muluk, I am a stranger, and had taken passage in a merchant ship, which was wrecked and sank with all on board. But I saved myself on a plank, and made my way hither. Wherefore I ask thee the name of the place, and in asking is no offence. Then said the captain, This is the city of Amaria, and this harbour is called Kamin al-Baran. When the princess heard this, she rejoiced with exceeding joy, and said, Praised be Allah. He asked, What is to do? And she answered, O Sayf al-Muluk, rejoice in succour near hand, for the king of this city is my uncle, my father's brother. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased saying her permitted say. When it was the 771st night, she continued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Daulat Khatun said to Sayf al-Muluk, Rejoice in safety near hand, for the king of this city is my uncle, my father's brother, and his name is Ali al-Muluk, adding, Say thou then to the captain, Is the sultan of the city Ali al-Muluk well? He asked, but the captain was wroth with him, and cried, Thou sayest, I am a stranger, and never in my life came hither. Who then told thee the name of the lord of the city? When Daulat Khatun heard this, she rejoiced, and knew him for Mu'in al-Din, one of her father's captains. Now he had fared forth in search of her, after she was lost, and finding her not, he never ceased cruising till he came to her uncle's city. Then she bade Sayf al-Muluk say to him, O Captain Mu'in al-Din, come and speak with thy mistress. So he called out to him as she bade, whereat he was wroth with exceeding wrath, and answered, O dog, O thief, O spy, who art thou, and how knowest thou me? Then he said to one of the sailors, Give me an ash stave, that I may go to yonder plaguing Arab and break his head. So he took the stick and made for Sayf al-Muluk. But when he came to the raft, he saw something wondrous, beauteous, which confounded his wits, and considering it straightly, he made sure that it was Daulat Khatun sitting there, as she were a slice of the moon. Whereat he said to the prince, "Who is that with thee?" Replied he, "A damsel by name Daulat Khatun." When the captain heard the princess's name and knew that she was his mistress and the daughter of his king, he fell down in a fainting fit, and when he came to himself, he left the raft and whatso was thereon, and riding up to the palace, craved an audience of the king, whereupon the chamberlain went into the presence and said, "Captain Mu'in al-Din is come to bring thee good news, so bid he be brought in." The king bade admit him. Accordingly he entered, and kissing ground said to him, "O king, thou owest me a gift for glad tidings, for thy brother's daughter Daulat Khatun hath reached our city safe and sound, and is now on a raft in the harbour, in company with a young man like the moon on the night of its full." When the king heard this, he rejoiced, and conferred a costly robe of honour on the captain. Then he straightway bade decorate the city in honour of the safe return of his brother's daughter, and sending for her and Sayf al-Muluk, saluted the twain and gave them joy of their safety, after which he dispatched a messenger to his brother, to let him know that his daughter was found and was with him. As soon as the news reached Taj al-Muluk, he gat him ready, and assembling his troops, set out for his brother's capital, where he found his daughter, and they rejoiced with exceeding joy. He sojourned with his brother a week, after which he took his daughter and Sayf al-Muluk and returned to Sarandib, where the princess foregathered with her mother, and they rejoiced at her safe return, and held high festival, and that day was a great day, never was seen its like. As for Sayf al-Muluk, the king entreated him with honour, and said to him, "O Sayf al-Muluk, thou hast done me and my daughter all this good for which I cannot requite thee, nor can any requite thee, save the Lord of the three worlds. But I wish thee to sit upon the throne in my stead, and rule the land of Hind, for I offer thee of my throne and kingdom and treasures and servants, all this in free gift to thee." Whereupon Sayf al-Muluk rose, and kissing the ground before the king, thanked him and answered, "O King of the age, I accept all thou givest me, and return it to thee in freest gift. For I, O King of the age, covet not sovereignty, nor sultanate, nor desire aught but that Allah the Most High bring me to my desire." Rejoined the king, "O Sayf al-Muluk, these my treasures are at thy disposal. Take of them what thou wilt, without consulting me, and Allah requite thee for me with all weal." Quoth the prince, "Allah advance the king. There is no delight for me in money or in dominion, till I win my wish. But now I have a mind to solace myself in the city, and view its thoroughfares and market streets." So the king bade bring him a mare of the thoroughbreds, saddled and bridled, and Sayf al-Muluk mounted her, and rode through the streets and markets of the city. As he looked about him right and left, lo, his eyes fell on a young man who was carrying a tunic and crying it for sale at 15 dinars. So he considered him, and saw him to be like his brother Sa'id, and indeed it was his very self, but he was wan of blee and changed for long strangerhood and the travails of travel, so that he knew him not. However, he said to his attendants, "Take yonder youth, and carry him to the palace where I lodge, and keep him with you till my return from the ride, when I will question him." But they understood him to say, "Carry him to the prison," and said in themselves, "Haply this is some runaway Mamluk of his." So they took him and bore him to the bridewell, where they laid him in irons, and left him seated in solitude, unremembered by any. Presently Sayf al-Muluk returned to the palace, but he forgot his brother Sa'id, and none made mention of him. So he abode in prison, and when they brought out the prisoners to cut ashlar from the quarries, they took Sa'id with them, and he wrought with the rest. He abode a month's space in this squalor and sore sorrow. pondering his case and saying in himself, "What is the cause of my imprisonment?" While Sayf al-Muluk's mind was diverted from him by rejoicing in other things. But one day, as he sat, he bethought him of Sa'id and said to his Mamelukes, "Where is the white slave I gave into your charge on such a day?" Quoth they, "Didst thou not bid us bear him to the bridewell?" And quoth he, "Nay, I said not so. I bade you carry him to my palace after the ride." Then he sent his chamberlains and emirs for Sa'id, and they fetched him in fetters, and loosing him from his irons, set him before the prince, who asked him, "O young man, what countryman art thou?" And he answered, "I am from Egypt, and my name is Sa'id, son of Faris the Wazir." Now hearing these words, Sayf al-Muluk sprang to his feet, and throwing himself off the throne and upon his friend, hung on his neck, weeping aloud for very joy, and saying, "O my brother, O Sa'id, praised be Allah for King Asim." Then they embraced and shed tears together, and all who were present marveled at them. After this, Sayf al-Muluk bade his people bear Sa'id to the Hammam bath, and they did so. When he came out, they clad him in costly clothing and carried him back to Sayf al-Muluk, who seated him on the throne beside himself. When King Taj al-Muluk heard of the reunion of Sayf al-Muluk and his brother Sa'id, he joyed with you exceeding and came to them. And the three sat devising of all that had befallen them in the past from first to last. Then said Sa'id, "O my brother, O Sayf al-Muluk, when the ship sank with all on board, I saved myself on a plank with a company of Mamelukes, and it drifted with us a whole month, when the wind cast us by the ordinance of Allah Almighty upon an island. So we landed, and entering among the trees, took to eating of the fruits, for we were a-hungered. Whilst we were busy eating, there fell on us unawares folk like Ifrits, and springing on our shoulders rode us and said to us, 'Go on with us, for ye are become our asses.' So I said to him who had mounted me, 'What art thou, and why mountest thou me?' At this he twisted one of his legs about my neck till I was all but dead, and beat upon my back the while with the other leg, till I thought he had broken my backbone. So I fell to the ground on my face, having no strength left in me for famine and thirst. From my fall he knew that I was hungry, and taking me by the hand, led me to a tree laden with fruit, which was a pear tree, and said to me, 'Eat thy fill of this tree.' So I ate till I had enough, and rose to walk against my will. But ere I had fared afar, the creature turned, and leaping on my shoulders again drove me on, now walking, now running, and now trotting, and he the while mounted on me, laughing and saying, 'Never in my life saw I a donkey like unto thee.' We abode thus for years, till one day of the days it chanced that we saw there great plenty of vines covered with ripe fruit. So we gathered a quantity of grape bunches, and throwing them into a pit, trod them with our feet, till the pit became a great water pool. Then we waited a while, and presently returning thither, found that the sun had rotten on the grape juice, and it was become wine. So we used to drink it till we were drunken, and our faces flushed, and we fell to singing and dancing, and running about in the merriment of drunkenness. Whereupon our master said to us, 'What is it that reddeneth your faces, and maketh you dance and sing?' We replied, 'Ask us not. What is your quest in questioning us hereof?' But they insisted, saying, 'You must tell us, so that we may know the truth of the case,' till we told them how we had pressed grapes and made wine. Quoth they, 'Give us to drink thereof.' But quoth we, 'The grapes are spent.' So they brought us to a wadi, whose length we knew not from its breadth, nor its beginning from its end, wherein were vines each bunch of grapes on them, weighing 20 pounds by the scale, and all within easy reach. And they said, 'Gather of these.' So we gathered a mighty great store of grapes, and finding there a big trench, bigger than the great tank in the king's garden, we filled it full of fruit. This we trod with our feet, and did with the juice as before, till it became strong wine, which it did after a month. Whereupon we said to them, "'Tis come to perfection, but in what will ye drink it?" And they replied, "We had asses like unto you, but we ate them and kept their heads, so give us to drink in their skulls." We went to their caves, which we found full of heads and bones of the sons of Adam, and we gave them to drink, when they became drunken and lay down, nigh 200 of them. Then we said to one another, "Is it not enough that they should ride us, but they must eat us also? There is no majesty and there is no might save in Allah the Glorious, the Great. But we will ply them with wine till they are overcome by drunkenness, when we will slay them and be at rest from them." Accordingly, we awoke them and fell to filling the skulls and gave them to drink. But they said, "This is bitter." We replied, "Why say ye 'tis bitter? Whoso saith thus, except he drink of it 10 times, he dieth the same day." When they heard this, they feared death and cried to us, "Give us to drink the whole 10 times." So we gave them to drink, and when they swallowed the rest of the 10 draughts, they waxed drunken exceedingly, and their strength failed them, and they availed not to mount us. Thereupon we dragged them together by their hands, and laying them one upon another, collected great plenty of dry vine stalks and branches, and heaped it about and upon them. Then we set fire to the pile and stood afar off, to see what became of them. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased to say her permitted say. End of section 45. Recording by Pam Castillo. Section 46 of the Book of 1000 Nights and a Night, Volume 7. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Pam Castillo. The Book of 1000 Nights and a Night, Volume 7, by Anonymous. Translated by Richard Francis Burton. Section 46. When it was the 772nd night, she pursued, "It hath reached me, O auspicious King, that Sa'id continued, when we set fire to the pile wherein were the ghouls, I with the Mamelukes stood afar off to see what became of them, and as soon as the fire was burnt out, we came back and found them a heap of ashes, wherefore we praised Allah Almighty, who had delivered us from them. Then we went forth about the island and sought the seashore, where we parted, and I and 2 of the Mamelukes fared on till we came to a thick copse full of fruit, and there busied ourselves with eating. And behold, presently up came a man tall of stature, long of beard, and lengthy of ear, with eyes like cressets, driving before him and feeding a great flock of sheep. When he saw us, he rejoiced and said to us, "Welcome, and fair welcome to you. Draw near me, that I may slaughter you and you of these sheep, and roast it and give you to eat." Quoth we, "Where is thine abode?" And quoth he, "Hard by yonder mountain. Go on towards it till ye come to a cave and enter therein, for you will see many guests like yourselves, and do ye sit with them, whilst we make ready for you the guest meal." We believed him, so fared on as he bade us, till we came to the cavern, where we found many guests, sons of Adam, like ourselves, but they were all blinded, and when we entered, one said, "I'm sick," and another, "I'm weak." So we cried to them, "What is this you say, and what is the cause of your sickness and weakness?" They asked, "Who are ye?" And we answered, "We are guests." Then they said, "What hath made you fall into the hands of yonder accursed? But there is no majesty and there is no might save in Allah, the Glorious, the Great. This is a ghoul who devoureth the sons of Adam, and he hath blinded us, and meaneth to eat us." Said we, "And how did he blind you?" And they replied, "Even as he will blind yourselves anon." Quoth we, "And how so?" And quoth they, He will bring you bowls of soured milk, and will say to you, Ye are weary with wayfare, take this milk and drink it. And when ye have drunken thereof, ye will become blind like us. Said I to myself, There is no escape for us but by contrivance. So I dug a hole in the ground and sat over it. After an hour or so, in came the accursed ghoul with bowls of milk, whereof he gave to each of us, saying, Ye come from the desert and are athirst, so take this milk and drink it, whilst I roast you the flesh. I took the cup and carried it to my mouth, but emptied it into the hole. Then I cried out, Alas, my sight is gone, and I am blind. And clapping my hand to my eyes, fell a weeping and a wailing, whilst the accursed laughed and said, Fear not, thou art now become like mine other guest. But as for my two comrades, they drank the milk and became blind. Thereupon the ghoul arose, and stopping up the mouth of the cavern, came to me and felt my ribs, but found me lean and with no flesh on my bones. So he tried another, and finding him fat, rejoiced. Then he slaughtered 3 sheep and skinned them, and fetching iron spits, spitted the flesh thereon, and set them over the fire to roast. When the meat was done, he placed it before my comrades, who ate, and he with them. After which he brought a leather bag full of wine, and drank thereof, and lay down prone and snored. Said I to myself, He's drowned in sleep. How shall I slay him? Then I bethought me of the spits, and thrusting 2 of them into the fire, waited till they were as red-hot coals. Whereupon I arose and girded myself, and taking a spit in each hand, went up to the accursed ghoul, and thrust them into his eyes, pressing upon them with all my might. He sprang to his feet for sweet life, and would have laid hold of me, but he was blind. So I fled from him into the inner cavern, whilst he ran after me. But I found no place of refuge from him, nor whence I might escape into the open country, for the cave was stopped up with stones. Wherefore I was bewildered, and said to the blind men, How shall I do with this accursed? Replied one of them, O Said, with a run and a spring, mount up to yonder niche, and thou wilt find there a sharpened scimitar of copper. Bring it to me, and I will tell thee what to do. So I climbed to the niche, and taking the blade, returned to the blind man, who said to me, Smite him with the sword in his middle, and he will die forthright. So I rushed after the ghoul, who was weary with running after me, and felt for the blind men, that he might kill them, and coming up to him, smote him with the sword a single stroke across his waist, and he fell in twain. Then he screamed and cried out to me, O man, and thou desire to slay me, strike me a second stroke. Accordingly I was about to smite him another cut, but he who had directed me to the niche and the scimitar said, Smite him not a second time, for then he will not die, but will live and destroy us. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased saying her permitted say. When it was the 773rd night, she resumed, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Said continued, Now when I struck the ghoul with the sword, he cried out to me, O man, and thou desire to slay me, strike me a second stroke. I was about so to do, when he who had directed me to the scimitar said, Smite him not a second time, for then he will not die, but will live and destroy us. So I held my hand as he bade me, and the ghoul died. Then said the blind man to me, Open the mouth of the cave, and let us fare forth. So haply Allah may help us, and bring us to rest from this place. And I said, No harm can come to us now. Let us rather abide here, and repose, and eat of these sheep, and drink of this wine, for long is the land. Accordingly we tarried there 2 months, eating of the sheep and of the fruits of the island, and drinking the generous grape juice, till it so chanced one day, as we sat upon the beach, we caught sight of a ship looming large in the distance. So we made signs for the crew, and hollowed to them. They feared to draw near, knowing that the island was inhabited by a ghoul, who ate Adamites, and would have sheered off. But we ran down to the marge of the sea, and made signs to them with our turban ends, and shouted to them, whereupon one of the sailors, who was sharp of sight, said to the rest, "Hark ye, comrades, I see these men formed like ourselves, for they have not the fashion of ghouls." So they made for us little by little, till they drew near us in the dinghy, and were certified that we were indeed human beings, when they saluted us, and we returned their salam, and gave them the glad tidings of the slaying of the accursed, wherefore they thanked us. Then we carried to the ship all that was in the cave of stuffs and sheep and treasure, together with the viaticum of the island fruits, such as should serve us days and months, and embarking sailed on with the fair breeze 3 days, at the end of which the wind veered round against us, and the air became exceedingly dark. Nor had an hour passed before the wind drove the craft on to a rock, where it broke up, and its planks were torn asunder. However, the great God decreed that I should lay hold of one of the planks, which I bestrode, and it bore me along 2 days, for the wind had fallen fair again, and I paddled with my feet awhile, till Allah the Most High brought me safe ashore, and I landed and came to this city, where I found myself a stranger, solitary, friendless, not knowing what to do, for hunger was sore upon me, and I was in great tribulation. Thereupon I, O my brother, hid myself, and pulling off this my tunic, carried it to the market, saying in my mind, I will sell it and live on its price, till Allah accomplish to me whatso He will accomplish. Then I took the tunic in my hand and cried it for sale, and the folk were looking at it and bidding for it, when, O my brother, thou camest by, and seeing me, commandest me to the palace. But thy pages arrested and thrust me into the prison, and there I abode till thou bethoughtest thee of me, and badest bring me before thee. So now I have told thee what befell me, and alhamdulillah, glorified be God, for reunion. Much marveled the 2 kings at Sa'id's tale, and Taj al-Muluk, having made ready a goodly dwelling for Saif al-Muluk, and his wazir Daulat Khatun, used to visit the prince there, and thank him for his favors, and talk with him. One day he met her, and said to her, O my lady, where is the promise thou madest me in the palace of Japhet son of Noah, saying, were I with my people, I would make shift to bring thee to thy desire? And Sa'id said to her, O princess, I crave thine aid to enable him to win his will. Answered she, Yea, verily, I will do my endeavor for him, that he may attain his aim, if it please Allah Almighty. And she turned to Saif al-Muluk and said to him, Be of good cheer, and keep thine eyes cool and clear. Then she rose, and going into her mother, said to her, Come with me forthright, and let us purify ourselves, and make fumigations, that Badi'a Jamal and her mother may come and see me and rejoice in me. Answered the queen, with love and goodly gree, and rising, betook herself to the garden, and burnt off these perfumes which she always had by her. Nor was it long before Badi'a Jamal and her mother made their appearance. The queen of Hind foregathered with the other queen, and acquainted her with her daughter's safe return, whereat she rejoiced, and rejoiced in each other. Then they pitched the pavilions, and dressed dainty viands, and made ready the place of entertainment, whilst the 2 princesses withdrew to a tent apart, and ate together, and drank, and made merry. After which they sat down to converse, and Badi'a Jamal said, What hath befallen thee in thy strangerhood? Replied Daulat Khatun, O my sister, how sad is severance, and how gladsome is reunion! Ask me not what hath befallen me. Oh, what hardships mortals suffer, cried she. How so? And the other said to her, O my sister, I was immured in the high-builded castle of Japhet son of Noah, whither the son of the Blue King carried me off, till Sayf al-Muluk slew the Jinni and brought me back to my sire." And she told her to boot all that the prince had undergone of hardships and horrors before he came to the castle. Badi al-Jamal marvelled at her tale and said, "By Allah, O my sister, this is the most wondrous of wonders. This Sayf al-Muluk is indeed a man, but why did he leave his father and mother and betake himself to travel and expose himself to these perils?" Quoth Daulat Khatun, "I have a mind to tell thee the first part of his history, but shame of thee hindereth me therefrom." Quoth Badi al-Jamal, "Why shouldst thou have shame of me, seeing that thou art my sister and my bosom friend, and there is much a matter between thee and me, and I know thou willest me naught but well? Tell me then what thou hast to say, and be not abashed at me, and hide nothing from me, and have no fear of consequences." Answered Daulat Khatun, "By Allah, all the calamities that have betided this unfortunate have been on thine account, and because of thee." Asked Badi al-Jamal, "How so, O my sister?" And the other answered, "Know that he saw thy portrait wrought on a tunic which thy father sent to Solomon son of David, on the twain be peace. And he opened it not, neither looked at it, but dispatched it with other presents and rarities to Asim bin Safwan, king of Egypt, who gave it still unopened to his son Sayf al-Muluk. The prince unfolded the tunic, thinking to put it on, and seeing thy portrait, became enamoured of it, wherefore he came forth in quest of thee, and left his folk and reign, and suffered all these terrors and hardships on thine account." And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased to say her permitted say. When it was the 774th Night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious King, that Daulat Khatun related to Badi al-Jamal the first part of Sayf al-Muluk's history, how his love for her was caused by the tunic whereon her presentment was wrought, how he went forth passion distraught in quest of her, how he forsook his people and his kingdom for her sake, and how he had suffered all these terrors and hardships on her account. When Badi al-Jamal heard this, she blushed rosy red and was confounded at Daulat Khatun and said, "Verily, this may never, never be, for man accordeth not with the Jinn." Then Daulat Khatun went on to praise Sayf al-Muluk and extol his comeliness and courage and cavalarice, and ceased not repeating her memories of his prowess and his excellent qualities till she ended with saying, "For the sake of Almighty Allah and of me, O sister mine, come and speak with him, though but one word." But Badi al-Jamal cried, "By Allah, O sister mine, this that thou sayest I will not hear, neither will I assent to thee therein." And it was as if she heard naught of what the other said, and as if no love of Sayf al-Muluk and his beauty and bearing and bravery had gotten hold upon her heart. Then Daulat Khatun humbled herself and said, "O Badi al-Jamal, by the milk we have sucked, I and thou, and by that which is graven on the seal ring of Solomon, on whom be peace, hearken to these my words, for I pledged myself in the high-builded castle of Japhet to show him thy face. So Allah upon thee, show it to him once, for the love of me, and look thyself on him." And she ceased not to weep and implore her, and kiss her hands and feet, till she consented and said, "For thy sake I will show him my face once, and he shall have a single glance." With that Daulat Khatun's heart was gladdened, and she kissed her hands and feet. Then she went forth and fared to the great pavilion in the garden, and bade her slave women spread it with carpets, and set up a couch of gold, and placed the wine vessels in order. After which she went into Sayf al-Muluk and to his Wazir Sa'id, whom she found seated in their lodging, and gave the prince the glad tidings of the winning of his wish, saying, "Go to the pavilion in the garden, thou and thy brother, and hide yourselves there from the eyes of men, so none in the palace may espy you, till I come to you with Badi al-Jamal." So they rose and repaired to the appointed pavilion, where they found the couch of gold set and furnished with cushions, and meat and wine ready served. So they sat awhile, whilst Sayf al-Muluk bethought him of his beloved, and his breast was straitened, and love and longing assailed him. Wherefore he rose and walked forth from the vestibule of the pavilion. Sa'id would have followed him, but he said to him, O my brother, follow me not, but sit in thy stead till I return to thee. So Sa'id abode seated, whilst Sayf al-Muluk went down into the garden, drunken with the wine of desire and distracted for excess of love-longing and passion-fire. Yearning agitated him, and transport overcame him, and he recited these couplets. O passing fair, I have none else but thee. Pity this slave in thy love's slavery. Thou art my search, my joy, and my desire. None save thyself shall love this heart of me. Would heaven I knew thou knewest of my wails, night long and eyelids oped by memory. Bid sleep to soar on these iron lids, haply in vision I thy sight shall see. Show favour then to one thus love's distraught, save him from ruin by thy cruelty. Allah increase thy beauty and thy weal, and be thy ransom every enemy. So shall on doomsday lovers range beneath thy flag, and beauties 'neath thy banner be. Then he wept and recited these also. That rarest beauty ever bides my foe, who holds my heart and lurks in secrecy. Speaking, I speak of nothing save her charms, and when I'm dumb in heart core woneth she. Then he wept sore and recited the following. And in my liver higher flames the fire. You are my wish, and longsome still I yearn. To you none other bend I, and I hope lovers long suffering are your grace to earn. And that you pity me whose frame by love is waste and weak, his heart with sore concern. Relent, be generous, tender-hearted, kind. From you I'll ne'er remove, from you ne'er turn. Then he wept and recited these also. Came to me care when came the love of thee. Cruel sleep fled me like thy cruelty. Tells me the messenger that thou art wroth. Allah forfend what evils told me he. Presently Sa'id waxed weary of awaiting him, and going forth in quest of him, found him walking in the garden, distraught, and reciting these two couplets. By Allah, by the Almighty, by his right, who read the Quran chapter Fatir height, ne'er roam my glances o'er the charms I see. Thy grace, rare beauty, is my talk by night. So he joined him, and the twain walked about the garden together, solacing themselves, and ate of its fruits. Such was their case. But as regards the two princesses, they came to the pavilion, and entering therein, after the eunuchs had richly furnished it, according to command, sat down on the couch of gold, beside which was a window that gave upon the garden. The castratos then set before them all manner rich meats, and they ate, Daulat Khatun feeding her foster sister by mouthfuls, till she was satisfied. When she called for divers kinds of sweetmeats, and when the neutrals brought them, they ate what they would of them, and washed their hands. After this Daulat Khatun made ready wine and its service, setting on the ewers and bowls, and she proceeded to crown the cups and give Badi al-Jamal to drink, filling for herself after and drinking in turn. Then Badi al-Jamal looked from the window into the garden, and gazed upon the fruits and branches that were therein, till her glance fell on Sayf al-Muluk, and she saw him wandering about the parterres, followed by Sa'id, and she heard him recite verses, raining the while railing tears, and that glance of eyes caused her 1,000 signs. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased saying her permitted say. End of section 46. Recording by Pam Castile. Section 47 of the Book of 1000 Nights and a Night, Volume 7. This is the LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Pam Castile. The Book of 1000 Nights and a Night, Volume 7, by Anonymous. Translated by Richard Francis Burton. Section 47. When it was the 775th night, she continued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Badi al-Jamal caught sight of Sayf al-Muluk as he wandered about the garden, that glance of eyes cost her 1,000 sighs, and she turned to Daulat Khatun and said to her, and indeed the wine sported with her senses, O my sister, who is that young man I see in the garden, distraught, love-abiding, disappointed, sighing? Quoth the other, Dost thou give me leave to bring him hither, that we may look on him? And quoth the other, An thou can avail to bring him, bring him. So Daulat Khatun called to him, saying, O king's son, come up to us, and bring us thy beauty and thy loveliness. Sayf al-Muluk recognized her voice, and came up into the pavilion, but no sooner had he set eyes on Badi al-Jamal than he fell down in a swoon. Whereupon Daulat Khatun sprinkled on him a little rose water, and he revived. Then he rose and kissed ground before Badi al-Jamal, who was amazed at his beauty and loveliness. And Daulat Khatun said to her, Know, O princess, that this is Sayf al-Muluk, whose hand saved me by the ordinance of Allah Almighty, and he it is who hath borne all manner burthens on thine account, wherefore I would have thee look upon him with favour. Hearing this, Badi al-Jamal laughed and said, And who keepeth faith that this youth should do so? For there is no true love in men. Cried Sayf al-Muluk, O princess, never shall lack of faith be in me, and all men are not created alike. And he wept before her and recited these verses. O thou, Badi al-Jamal, show thou some clemency to one those lovely eyes oppressed with witchery. By rites of beauteous hues and tints thy cheeks combine, of snowy white and glowing red anemone. Punish not with disdain one who is sorely sick. By long, long parting waste hath waxed this frame of me. This is my wish, my will, the end of my desire, and union is my hope, and haply this may be. Then he wept with violent weeping, and love and longing got the mastery over him, and he greeted her with these couplets. Peace be to you from lovers' wasted love, all noble hearts to noble favour show. Peace be to you, ne'er fail your form my dreams, nor hall nor chamber the fair sight forego. Of you I'm jealous, none may name your name, lovers to lovers I should bend thee low. So cut not off your grace from him who loves, while sickness wastes and sorrows overthrow. I watch the flowery stars which frighten me, while cark and care mine every night forslow. Nor patience bides with me, nor plan appears. What shall I say when questioned of my foe? God's peace be with you in the hour of need, peace sent by lover patient, bearing woe. Then for the excess of his desire and ecstasy, he repeated these couplets also. If I to aught save you, O lords of me incline, ne'er may I win of you my wish, my sole design. Who doth comprise all loveliness save only you? Who makes the doomsday dawn even now before thine? Far be it love find any rest, for I am one, who lost for love of you this heart, these vitals mine. When he had made an end of his verses, he wept with sore weeping, and she said to him, O prince, I fear to grant myself wholly to thee, lest I find in thee nor fondness nor affection. For oftentimes man's fidelity is small, and his perfidy is great, and thou knowest how the Lord Solomon, son of David, on whom be the peace, took Bilkins to his love, but whenas he saw another fairer than she, turned from her thereto. Sayf al-Muluk replied, O my eye and O my soul, Allah hath not made all men alike, and I, inshallah, will keep my troth and die beneath thy feet. Soon shalt thou see what I will do in accordance with my words, and for whatso I say, Allah is my warrant. Quoth Badi al-Jamal, Sit and be of good heart, and swear to me by the right of thy faith, and let us covenant together that each will not be false to other, and whichever of us breaketh faith may Almighty Allah punish. At these words he sat down and set his hand in her hand, and they sware each to other that neither of them would ever prefer to the other any one, either of man or of the jinn. Then they embraced for a whole hour and wept for excess of their joy, whilst passion overcame Sayf al-Muluk, and he recited these couplets. I weep for longing's love own ardency, to her who claims the heart and soul of me, and soars my sorrow parted long from you, and shorts my arm to reach the prize I see, and mourning grief for what my patience marred, to blamers I unveiled my secrecy, and waxed straight that whilom was so wide, patience nor force remains nor power to dree. Would heaven I knew if God will ever deign to join our lives, and from our cark and care and grief set free. After this mutual troth plighting, Sayf al-Muluk arose and walked in the garden, and Badi al-Jamal arose also and went forth also afoot, followed by a slave girl bearing somewhat of food and a flask of wine. The princess sat down, and the damsel set the meat and wine before her, nor remained there long ere they were joined by Sayf al-Muluk, who was received with greeting, and the two embraced and sat them down. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased to say her permitted say. When it was the 776th night, she pursued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that having provided food and wine, Badi al-Jamal met Sayf al-Muluk with greetings, and the twain having embraced and kissed, sat them down a while to eat and drink. Then said she to him, O king's son, thou must now go to the garden of Iram, where dwelleth my grandmother, and seek her consent to our marriage. My slave girl Marjana will convey thee thither, and as thou farest therein, thou wilt see a great pavilion of red satin, lined with green silk. Enter the pavilion heartening thyself, and thou wilt see inside it an ancient dame sitting on a couch of red gold, set with pearls and jewels. Salute her with respect and courtesy, then look at the foot of the couch, where thou wilt descry a pair of sandals of cloth interwoven with bars of gold, embroidered with jewels. Take them and kiss them, and lay them on thy head. Then put them under thy right armpit, and stand before the old woman in silence, and with thy head bowed down. If she ask thee, Who art thou, and how camest thou hither, and who led thee to this land? And why hast thou taken up the sandals? Make her no answer, but abide silent till Marjana enter, when she will speak with her, and seek to win her a proof for thee, and cause her look on thee with consent. So haply Allah Almighty may incline her heart to thee, and she may grant thee thy wish. Then she called the handmaid Marjana hight, and said to her, As thou lovest me, do my errand this day, and be not neglectful therein. And thou accomplish it, thou shalt be a free woman, for the sake of Allah Almighty. And I will deal honorably by thee with gifts, and there shall be none dearer to me than thou, nor will I discover my secrets to any save thee. So by my love for thee, fulfill this my need, and be not slothful therein. Replied Marjana, O my lady, and light of mine eyes, tell me what it is thou requirest of me, that I may accomplish it with both mine eyes. Badi'a rejoined, Take this mortal on thy shoulders, and bear him to the bloom garden of Iram, and the pavilion of my grandmother, my father's mother, and be careful of his safety. When thou hast brought him into her presence, and seest him take the slippers and do them homage, and hearest her ask him, saying, Whence art thou, and by what road art come, and who led thee to this land, and why hast thou taken up the sandals, and what is thy need that I give heed to it? Do thou come forward in haste, and salute her with the salam, and say to her, O my lady, I am she who brought him hither, and he is the king's son of Egypt. 'Tis he who went to the high-builded castle, and slew the son of the Blue King, and delivered the princess Talut Khatun from the castle of Japhet, son of Noah, and brought her back safe to her father. And I have brought him to thee, that he may give thee the glad tidings of her safety. So deign thou be gracious to him. Then do thou say to her, Allah upon thee, is not this young man handsome, O my lady? She will reply, Yes, and do thou rejoin, O my lady, indeed he is complete in honor and manhood and valor, and he is Lord and King of Egypt, and compriseth all praiseworthy qualities. And she asked thee, What is his need? Do thou make answer, My lady saluteth thee, and saith to thee, How long shall she sit at home, a maid and unmarried? Indeed, the time is longsome upon her, for she is as a magazine wherein wheat is heaped up. What then is thine intent in leaving her without a mate, and why dost thou not marry her in thy lifetide, and that of her mother like other girls? If she say, How shall we do to marry her? And she have any one in mind, let her tell us of him, and we will do her will as far as may be. Do thou make answer, O my lady, thy daughter saith to thee, Ye were minded aforetime to marry me to Solomon, on whom be peace, and portrayed him my portrait on a tunic. But he had no lot in me, so he sent the tunic to the king of Egypt, and he gave it to his son, who saw my portrait figured thereon, and fell in love with me. Wherefore he left his father and mother's realm, and turning away from the world and whatso is therein, went forth at a venture, a wanderer, love distraught, and hath borne the utmost hardships and honours for my sake of me. Now thou seest his beauty and loveliness, and thy daughter's heart is enamoured of him. So if you have a mind to marry her to this young man, and forbid her not from him, for he is young and passing comely, and king of Egypt, nor wilt thou find a goodlier than he. And if ye will not give her to him, she will slay herself, and marry none, neither man nor jinn. And, continued Badi'a al-Jamal, Look thou, O Marjana Mami, how thou mayest do with my grandmother to win her consent, and beguile her with soft words, so haply she may do my desire. Quoth the damsel, O my lady, upon my head and eyes will I serve thee, and do what shall content thee. Then she took Sayf al-Muluk on her shoulders, and said to him, O king's son, shut thine eyes. He did so, and she flew up with him into the welkin, and after a while she said to him, O king's son, open thine eyes. He opened them, and found himself in a garden, which was none other than the garden of Iram. And she showed him the pavilion, and said, O Sayf al-Muluk, enter therein. Thereupon he pronounced the name of Allah Almighty, and entering cast a look upon the garden, when he saw the old queen sitting on the couch, attended by her waiting women. So he drew near her with courtesy and reverence, and taking the sandals bussed them, and did as Badi al-Jamal had enjoined him. Quoth the ancient dame, Who art thou, and what is thy country? Whence comest thou, and who brought thee hither, and what may be thy wish? Wherefore dost thou take the sandals and kiss them? And when didst thou ask of me a favour which I did not grant? With this in came Marjana, and saluting her reverently and worshipfully, repeated to her what Badi al-Jamal had told her, which when the old queen heard, she cried out at her, and was wroth with her, and said, How shall there be accord between man and jinn? And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. End of section 47. Recording by Pam Castile. End of the Book of 1000 Nights and a Night, Volume 7, by Anonymous, translated by Richard Francis Burton.